We've had a couple of presentations on .NET alternatives using MVC and SQL Azure and so on. And I was really, really happy that Rob and his team agreed to step in and do a presentation on the work they're doing, because I've been aware of Rob and his work for quite a while at Utter Access. And as far as I can tell, his team has taken the Access web app itself about as far as anybody I'm aware of, and much further than I ever thought was possible. And since the announcement of the end of Access Web Apps, Access Services, they have pushed even further ahead and are now hosting within their own SharePoint server Access Web Apps for external parties, and I'll let Rob touch on that. I know of at least a couple people who are already taking advantage of that. But I'm also quite interested in hearing more about the ways that he and his team are using combination of Power Apps, Flow, Swagger, Web APIs, and so on. So with that, I will turn the presentation over to Rob and his team, and thank you again for everyone for joining us.
Okay, thank you, George. I'll give a short overview. First, I'll show a simple Power App that has a connector to Access Web Apps. Within Access Web Apps, we have the message is being delivered from Power Apps with JSON. It's actually a collection object that's being passed by Web Apps and is coming in as JSON. Then since recently, it's being addressed to a database that's functioning as a preprocessor. It's converting the JSON message with what it knows and creates an XML compliant message that can be broadcasted by a Signal R system. And we have two mechanisms. The Signal R system can broadcast and has next to flesh and blood listeners, it can have Access Web App databases as participants in topics in the broadcast, in chat topics. And there's two ways really that the broadcast can take place. It can write a file to the file system, and in the file system is a PowerShell script that's being triggered by the file classification infrastructure, and that PowerShell script is pushing the message onto a table in the corresponding Access Web App database. On that table is a stored procedure, and the table gets the XML message that the preprocessor created, and it gets it as a flat table with I'll show you what that's looking like. The iteration, the nested iteration is being done in C#, and we don't have things like that in Access Web Apps. So we have a care index routine that's being iterating with a for each over a tally table, which I thankfully learned from George's book, which was very inspiring, by the way. We really got things going a lot better in Access Web Apps when we purchased the book. So I'll show you the overview. So a simple form that's being connected to an Access Web App that's receiving an XML compliant message from the Power App and processes that.
Excuse me,
Then,
Rob, can I
yeah.
interrupt? Should we be seeing something besides your desktop?
No, I'll show you right away.
Okay.
This is the overview. Then there's a video that Michalis created in the beginning of the evening, and I can reproduce that later on, and I will give you some comment on the Power App. That Power App is a intelligent forms designer. It's quite spectacular, we think. And after that, Gerard, my colleague, will give a demo on Power App, talking to Access Web App and instigating an email that's being sent by a desktop access that's connected to the SQL from the AWA, and that we trigger the Access desktop instance by a web service that triggers a remote desktop procedure in the blind. It's not interactive. It has no graphical user interface, and it's automatically starting the Access desktop application by the login script, and then it takes the request message from the AWA database from the table in concern and performs the request that was being placed on that table before the web service that it triggered all this was called with a get URL in an iframe of the AWA. So I'll show you a little from a simple Power App first. Let's see here.
Hey, Rob, just for clarification, so when you say you're connecting again to an Access web app, indirectly or one way or another, you're connecting to an Azure backend, right? Or not?
No, yeah. Well, with the Access desktop, where we're connecting to the SQL database, that's being managed by the Access web app. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
All right. This is a simple app that's creating. This is for a housing corporation that had a form for the things, the assets a new employee might need. So it's got a number of sections, personal information. We'll go through there. I created a new form now, so I'll give it the name of the new employee. New. We made an English version this afternoon for this. Very nice input mask and so on. So I crossed over the 10 probably. In the Netherlands, the civil service number is 10 characters. We can also make it stop so that it won't allow any characters. In here, the square goes red. I don't know whether you can see that when you goes green when it's on 10.
Yeah, I can see it. That's very cool.
Okay, and it's normally we in the other app that Gerard will be showing, the save and continue will be disabled until everything that needs to be complied to has been done properly. And we can do that, of course. The Microsoft people will know that with any what's the name again? Regular expression that you can find on the internet, and that's really great about Power Apps. So we continue a bit. This is one regular expression that we have for the Dutch zip code. And the city can be Groningen. Here we have, it's quite simple. We have, in case the employee needs more instances of a same device, we have it by numbers, but it's just being illustrative to the housing company what we can build for them. This is not taking any alphanumeric characters, only numbers. Save and continue. Function, not important. Explanation of the function, old function. When it's an internal appliance. Okay, let's do this. PDA. One tablet, one PC. And as you can see here, there's a page for each destination. So this is for the network administrator, but we have a facilities management that hands out keys from garages and lockers and so on. So if we go on here.
So can I ask a quick question right here?
Sure.
So what you're saying is that you're automatically sending notification to those administrators at the appropriate point?
No, yeah, kind of. We have a workflow application in Access Web Apps, and for each consecutive person, a workflow request is being created in the Access Web App, and then each person gets a notifier. It can be an SMS or a text message. It can be an email. Or it can be an email with an attached form, like a PDF, but it can also be an XML message that's being forwarded to any other specialized Access Web App database. So it can do. We can't think of really much it can't do technically. So if we save and continue, so this is for the finance administrator. Does the person have to verify invoices or not? We always run our Power Apps locally, so we don't need connection. Housing network. Work administrator, well, that's a bus, no. Company car, one. Scooter, no. Master key, 2. Save and continue. Working clothes, 0. Tools, yes. Well, this is something from the customer in case. I don't know what this means in Dutch. It's about an application they have probably. Customer window, 1. P&O administrator, do need a key of the office, key of the bicycle storage, otherwise name. Save and continue. Do an auto sign for the send to help desk, and now you can see.
I think Ben has a question down in the chat window.
Mm-hmm. I don't see a chat window. Sorry. Can you? I don't. Why should I look?
Far left of the.
In the lower left corner, there's an icon.
Right. It says I am.
It says I am on it. If you hover over it.
I am.
It's the shape of a little message symbol, kind of, with a circle around it.
I see the Skype here, and then we have Skype for companies.
I'll just read.
There it is. It's right there. Oops.
Oh. I'll just read the question so we can keep moving. Ben is asking if he missed, are those forms all table driven?
No, those are all collection driven. So these are nested collections objects within Power Apps, local nested collections that have deeper levels. And the collection, the web database, the Access, sorry, the Swagger service database that's uploading this gets is defined similar to the collection object that is being passed by, but it's always the same web service. So we just define a new Swagger definition file according to the collection object we want to pass, and then we have a new web service really. And so what we did now was uploading. So if there is no connection, it will tell me that. So we have now this one in the uploaded documents. It says you have successfully created. So if we go here now, we can see what it did with the communication. So it requested these things. It was submitted by me. This was for the client. These are the GUIDs that were created for that. It can be done by the web service. It can be done by the Power App or the AWA as well. We create GUIDs everywhere with a random function. Okay, so this has been communicated. If I go back now, if it could have been communicated, this would have been read. And if I had connection later on, if my tablet was out of range, I could have sent it later on. And if I go to the Access web app now, that's here in a remote desktop session. It's an old version of the application, really. But it'll probably show. So if I go to today, then that will probably give me only the one, because it's after 12 now here.
Maybe
so if it's no, it should be going, but for some reason, Access Web Apps, if you don't use it for a while, it needs to come up again. It's
Yeah, they go to sleep.
yeah. Well, here's what being created. I think to 2211. Yeah, that's it. Key bicycle, and then I'll try to make this a little smaller. So this is a help desk application that we created for a medical practice, a group of doctors, and for a housing corporation. You can have all kinds of types of cases. These are the categories. These are forms. This is a meldings form. So this has been created by the Power App. This is a message that is coming by. I'm a listener here in something that's being broadcasted between databases. And so we have today here. So I think we had a tablet, if I recall right. Yeah, one. And so now depending on the person's category and depending on the case category and subcategory, we can define what the stage changing options are. So what kind of actions you can take within the stage a case is in at a certain moment. And we can, this is data driven, so we can someone that's doing the implementation at a customer can define the follow-up options, the follow-up actions on each stage a post-flow request is in. And this is a chat functionality that we have. This is running in an iframe from the Access web app, and it's connected. So if we do a open case in chat, I'm not sure whether this one is working, but we'll see. Then it's doing a request, and then it has a hidden URL control that's that's creating a 20-character random key and sending a request to the with a get URL to the web service. The web service reading the key and reading the source database, retrieving the request message, which is in XML format from the table, from the database, and most of the time it's doing a replicate to a chat topic, and that means that all database members that are in that chat topic will receive the message on their push table, and then there's a trigger on there, and each database can create a response message. And because the web service, every time a web service is pushing an XML message, it's waiting for the trigger in the AWA, and then sees on the response key whether there were one or more reply messages from the database. And most of the time that's another replicate, and the chat service itself is communicated by with a managed AWA database as well. But Gerard will show you more of this in a minute. But it didn't go. Let's see why this is test 44. Oh, I have perhaps to create a open case. Oh, this is the old version. Sorry, I can't. Gerard will show you this later.
I'll show that in a minute.
All right. Thanks, Gerard. Any questions up to now? No questions? Hello? Anyone there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
There'll be questions.
All right. Well, then I'll continue. So this has been created by the web app. We can have a look.
I'm sorry, Rob. There were some questions, but I had my mic muted, and I was just blabbing away, and people were ignoring me.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Ben has a question. He wants to know if you can show us the Swagger part.
Yeah, Gerard, can you show that in a minute?
Okay, the Swagger. I would have to look in my laptop to see if I can find one of these sample.
Our problem is Sophia, the programmer. Our main AWA programmer is for holidays in Greece at the moment, and we figured when I made the appointment with you, George. I wasn't aware of that. I was expecting her to be in Greece with Christmas, but she went earlier. But we can probably show you. Sorry?
I'll try to find a sample from earlier, and then maybe that's enough.
Okay. Can you elaborate on how you and Eric did the objectivization from the server, so that it can take really that it can serve any Swagger type definition?
Yeah, we originally the Swagger file would contain specific sets of tables from the Power app, and the C# code would have to match this object, but by changing the C# code so that it can take any object, we don't have to modify the web service every time a new Swagger is generated. But
okay.
Yeah, I didn't prepare a screen so I could show any of this.
See in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go to show how that's working in the AWA.
There are other months in which we can reschedule if that's something.
Okay.
I won't put you on the spot right here, but that would be.
All right. This is the table that the web service is pushing messages on. Well, Access, come on. I hope we're not running backups in the data center. No, there it is. So this is the message that is actually an XML message, but here's how we do that. If I take this one, Control C, I'll take it in here, for instance. Oh, this is already one. Control A, Control V. So this is actually a serialized XML message. So we have here this is called employee category, but this is actually an XML tag. And then we jump with the char index in the AWA from length parameter to length parameter. So we don't have to check for any elements being childs or siblings or going back from a child to a parent. We just jump. We start off on the first position, and then we see what kind of element part is there. This is a tag. This is a story. I started off on a ski holiday with a sample application, sample AWA application on Office 365, because I didn't have my own on-premises environment available at that moment. So I think, okay, we can do some things in Office 365 here, and the sample was about employee categories and tasks. It was a very simple sample application from Microsoft on AWAs. So employee categories is actually with us XML tags, and employees is XML elements, and attributes is tasks. And we thought of changing the names later on, but later on we said, okay, why would we? Let's just wait as long as possible. But so that's why the EC is coming from. It's actually a tag, and I can have a look on the file system. Let's have a look here. That's within, and then let's see. This is verwerkt. So this is an XML file that's being created and that's being processed. So if I look here, we have the XML to file. These are databases, and as soon as the web service places an XML message in here, it's being processed as serialized. Or Gerrit, am I right, or is it being placed here as a fully qualified string, as we call it, or is it an XML, and is it offered to the database as a FQS, as a fully qualified string, or is it?
So the message contains an XML, and the visual the web service converts it to an FQS.
So in here would be FQS.
This would be readable.
This would be XML.
Yeah.
Okay, so the FCI, the fully the file classified infrastructure PowerShell script is making this an FQS.
Eric's web service is doing that.
Yeah, but when is it called? But the PowerShell script is using the web service with a request as XML to FQS probably.
Yeah,
Can
right.
we see that here? Okay. Oh yeah, this is XML. So this is a request that offers an XML message as a fully qualified string, as we call it, to a database, and we can revert it as well. So we can create it as FQS, but we can revert it to XML as well. And it's supporting namespaces, and so if you have an we have the tables that we're talking about, the employee category and the employee are all self-referencing, so you can have any XML nested structure or any JSON structure you can have in there, and we have some tricks that concerning groups, because Gerard has also created XML from Active Directory. Did you do that with the etc object, Gerard? Where do you create the Active Directory devices and so with?
Yeah, well, a script at the customer side queries Active Directory and assembles
with PowerShell objects or something. Is it a shell around ADSI or what is it? Standard PowerShell?
Yeah, it's standard PowerShell. PowerShell can read from Active Directory.
Okay. Well, so we import organizational unit structures, both devices and users, but we have group memberships in the hierarchical or the what do you call it, the XML database structure that we have in the AWA, and that's very nice because with calculated fields we create for all the parent levels. You can have an indexed string in AWA of 220 that's still indexable, 220 characters. What we do is we have IDs that are being created, are being prefixed with zeros up to 10 for each of them. So each element has a calculated field or a field that's being processed by the stored procedure or by the trigger. So we can, with a like percentage on that calculated field, we can have memberships in the XML database. So all kinds of XML messages are coming in. We can read anything. We can even read schemas. But when an unknown XML file comes in, the each element, each child on each child level contains a string of maximum 220 characters, so 20 levels deep, and that string is being built on each parent's ID, parent element's ID with preceding zeros. So if we need, for instance, if we have a structure with a continent, and then within a continent we have countries, and then you have Germany, and then you have provinces, and then states, cities, and so on, and then districts or streets, we can still have. We both do it for the XML path. So just in XML, when you look at an element, it can exist only in one place, just like an object within Active Directory. But you can have lots of group memberships, both with the XML path structure. So a child element can be a node in XML, can be just only on one place, not on another in the same XML file. But group memberships are possible. But we can search any child node indexed through that calculated ID string mechanism that we have. So we can go into the millions of records. We can, if a new XML message is coming in, we depending on the system we configured, we chose for that instance, it can create a new tag instance and put the element instance in there, but what we use mostly is that the tags are not being recreated, but the elements are all unique. So if a new XML string is coming in, new elements are created, but they're placed in the same tag element context. And this way we build up a database on all the incoming messages. And for the doctors, for instance, we have EDI fact messages that are coming in. For instance, blood samples from hospitals or people that have been the house doctors being informed that their patients have been taken into hospital or were fired from hospital. Those messages are coming in, but we can inspect those messages on next incoming messages. So if a blood sample of a patient comes in, we can, for instance, have a rule in the Access Web App that's looking for previous blood samples, and can have a rule that if certain blood samples changed a lot, and for instance the patient has something, heart disease or MS, that it can create in the workflow environment request to make an appointment for the patient with the doctor, and we can trigger any flow, and we haven't done logic apps yet, but we can create any logic apps workflow, and we can do anything to backwards to Power Apps by push notifications, but the push notifications are not working properly at Microsoft, and they hope to fix it in January. So we have no way of pushing things to Power Apps only by receiving a push notification and then click on that and then actually do a pull in the Power App, being triggered by the opening, by the push notification. So we have a problem until January at least with Power Apps. But well, I'm going very deep and theoretically in the structure we built. So my suggestion is that I continue now, unless there are questions.
We have one question from Ben again about how PowerShell is involved in what you're doing here.
This came from PowerShell. Oh, sorry, PowerShell, Power Apps. No, oh, I'm getting tired. No, PowerShell is involved by the FCI. So when something is pushed on a in the file system by a web service coming in from Power Apps or from a get to post request, as we call it, from an AWA. So actually a message that has been prepared and set, and then a request with an ID from an iframe in the AWA, then the web service is retrieving that, and if it's a replicate to another database, for instance, it's stored to the file system, and the file system has a trigger with the file classification infrastructure that Windows Server has since 2008 R2, I think. So the PowerShell script is what's being triggered by the file system, and we have a web service that we call the PWS service, and that web service can call any PowerShell script that we have, and provide it with parameters from the AWA, for instance. So if the message type is trigger this or that PowerShell script, then we have a request for that in the AWA, and then we trigger the get to post web service, and we do everything with post web services because we always create items actually, but we have one get to post service, and that's on behalf of the AWAs. It's being triggered by a get, and then it's retrieving the message from the AWA database, from the table in concern, and then it's interpreting what it's doing. It's using an AWA for that by itself, by the way. But then what is possible, that it's a request to perform a PowerShell script, and that we can create new users or devices in Active Directory with that. We can do practically anything from an AWA that way. So that's the role of PowerShell. We have C#, but there's hardly any material, any applicational functionality on doctors or house corporations. It's all functional in C#. We have PowerShell that's performing. That's actually complementary to what's happening in C#, and we have all the material functionality. So the actual things that need to be done on a vertical application, we have that in triggers and stored procedures in AWAs. So whatever we do, the PowerShell scripts and the C# functionality is for everything, and we have some vertical functionality in Flow perhaps, but most of that is generic for each application as well. For instance, connectivity with Navision and with Salesforce. We're working on Salesforce connectivity at the moment for a customer, and we have done something on Navision in the past and with OData. Okay.
One more follow-up to that, and I'm translating here because Ben is posting his questions in the IM window, which you haven't got open.
Okay.
His question has to do with security. How do you prevent arbitrary commands being executed on PowerShell with this method?
On PowerShell, the web service has an X5. We work totally with X509 certificates. So we're thinking of leaving that a bit with service in between, because we really get an accumulation of client certificates on some servers. So, but
that's for the user interface part.
Yeah.
The PowerShell. PowerShell is actually called by a web service, and we have defined in a database exactly what scripts can be executed. So it's not possible to just do a request for any PowerShell script to be executed. It's all defined by us.
We have one web service one call that passes the actual PowerShell script you want to execute, but it's only within a protected environment. What you do from the outside, we're working both with server certificates and client certificates, and up to now the PowerShell clients need to have certificates as well, Gerard, or is that not anymore?
Well, we haven't. I think these services are not open to the internet, but are only called by ourselves from our own servers, where we are up to now control what is being called.
For as far as Swagger services are concerned, we use API keys for each organization that we use. But safety is. We have quite some overhead from safety. We're working on getting form-based authentication operational again. We had that on 2013 SharePoint, but we had a lot of issues getting it up and running again in 2016 environment, but I think we are almost there, Gerard.
Yeah. Yeah, we're working
you
on that,
have
but
the build?
that's for the user login on SharePoint.
Yeah. So we have the AWAs protected with certificates as well. We're going to secure cookies with form-based authentication, and the whole replication system is actually for safety. So we only give a user access. Every user that should, for instance, go with Fiddler to the Access Web App service, bypassing the web browser functionality that the AWA is normally being accessed by, then he or she will only see his or her own data. So we tested a couple of years ago with AWA, and we saw that the whole database was completely open to the outside world if you bypass the browser and just started doing something with Fiddler, and so the whole replication mechanism is for getting each database the correct subset for the users of that database, and we think we have it completely safe.
Okay, great. So
okay, well, let's go
move along. Can I just step in here and say we're coming up on our first hour. And I realize
sorry
because
about
of the time zone difference, I think most of us are willing to go as long as you're willing to go.
No problem for us, but we'll speed up a little.
It's for your benefit, because I think because of the time zone difference. But just
I could briefly demonstrate well the XML messages being generated live from actions in the application in the AWAs, and also demonstrate a possibility to use access reports from a user access desktop application.
Exactly. Gerard, shall I show first Michale's
yeah, that's okay, because that's an important thing. Yeah.
And then now yours is the most important, really. But then this will go pretty fast. I can have some information on that. This is the most advanced Power App that we have at the moment. Where am I? And this, it's in here. We can open. I can open the, but I'll show you what Michalis did first. There's something going double, but that's not really bad, I think. I'll stop once in a while and just explain some things to you. So this is called the Meter Micro Intelligent Forms Designer. We use Power Apps in two ways. We use it as a web service client through nested tables that talk to Swagger defined web services. And we use the export-import system as a just like Excel and Word saves and retrieves documents. So this is a file that can contain document categories. Well, this is the first category that was created in here, and then within a document category we can have one or more documents. Yeah. So here we are in the document category, and now Michalis creates a document, a questionnaire. He goes in there. Then within the document we have page categories. So this is a page category. Then he's going to create the first page, and these are the page templates that we have. He's going to do a repeating item. So then in the template, it's unknown how many items are going to be created in the usage environment. So this is for the header. I'm a bit lost here because this looks like multiple controls, but it is repetitive items. Well, we'll see what it gets to. Yeah, this is the multiple control page. So he probably is to his second page already. The multiple control page contains, you can choose whether you want to use a date or whatever. And the nice thing is that you can make it completely intelligent in some way. This is the first question, and then there's going to be a second. The required function is for whether you filled in something. Then in the normal usage environments, it's going to be depending on the enable knob being enabled, really. Sorry, the forward or the submit button. What's happening now is we go into the next question, and then we make a condition. So regarding the person has drunk alcohol or not, or is younger than 18, the flow of the questionnaire will be depending on that. So now we go to the visibility rules, and we say, this is the question, do your parent knows? And it will be visible only if you answered younger than 18 and you drank alcohol. So let's see, this is probably, this is a text file that's going to be shown in a case depending on other conditions. Oh, sorry, this is a new page. How old are you? Well, it'll show itself as soon as we get into the usage environment. This is the designer. So we get, oh, this is a triage. He started off with a simple sample, and this is a bit overlapping, but we'll see what it. So this is what is your gender, and then male. We're very fond of Power Apps. It has some serious flaws, but overall it's truly great. Only when you add a new page with 60 or 70 bytes, your memory usage can go up from 350 to 500 megabytes of real memory. I don't know how they did that, really. If you have a couple of Power Apps open, a 4 gigabyte machine is going up to 59% of CPU usage and real memory usage. And they do it with just a couple of thousand bytes. Anyway, what do you suffer from? It's a radio button. We have combo boxes. So if there's stomach pain and the person is between 10 and 45, then there has to be a question, are you or could you be pregnant? And now the rules are being set for this question. How old? What is your gender? Okay. Is this clear? Any questions up to now?
I have just one. I just want to be really clear. This is a designer that you created with Power Apps to design Power Apps?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Sorry?
well, yeah, that's my question too. So this designer here is in lieu of the Forms designer inside of Power Apps, either web or desktop studio.
Yeah, this is a Forms designer we created completely in Power Apps. Yeah, and we run the created forms in Power Apps as well.
Interesting.
And the nice thing is this, regardless of what your flow of questions will be, it will always end up to the same nested tables collection structure towards the Swagger web servers. So for any questionnaire that you create, you can always use the same web servers. You can address different databases, though. The whole filled-in questionnaire can be interpreted by the workflow engine. So there's a preprocessor that's knowing what namespaces the JSON that's coming from the Power App should be in the XML structure in the database. It knows what to convert to attributes. It knows what to interpret in some way or another. And then when the XML is coming in, then it's an XML that could have come from another AWA with a replicating service, or could have come from a PowerShell script from a client that on an IoT sensor or something. So then it's just any XML message that we produce from all kinds of sources. Okay, I'll continue with this. Well, this is what we created for triages for doctors only 2 weeks ago, and we're very proud of this. Now we create just taking any image. I've seen better images than are being used here, but let's use a medical one. And this one is being in fit mode, so you can't see here the problem. What you see here is it's being sized now, as you see. But if we stop this for a while, this is in fit mode. So normally this could have been a landscape or a portrait with a lot of white on the sides or on the top of the bottom. In fit, it sizes itself, so that's a bit of a pity that we used fit here, because we can size the frame And one of the most spectacular things of Power Apps is that we can do everything on a row basis. So we use the ID in Power Apps, and we can have different frame sizes on each row of an image. But we use it for all kinds of other things as well. But we'll see about that later. But so now it's being sized. Now we create a button, a push button, and we size it. You can size it to any place. The one is sizing along with that. You see that? And now we place a second one. And you can have them very small. You can have them really on upper part of the elbow or whatever. So now we give it a friendly name. And now it's working as a radio button, really. So if you click, if the person with the stomach pain is clicking somewhere, it's just like setting a radio button on stomach or chest or whatever. So now we're gonna have a result, a message really that's depending on what has been clicked. We're quite happy with this functionality. Really, we got a question only 2 weeks ago from an anesthesist and a Hewlett Packard manager here from Europe, and we got it up and running. We have one problem with the conditions. What you see here is that, but we could work with it all the time still. Now I think it's it's being saved by the designer. So now we're going to the forms. Is everyone still available? Still online, or is...
I'm here. I'm still here.
I'm here. Yeah, looks like everybody's still here.
Almost everybody is still here. Yeah.
All right. So now we open it in the other environment. No, but this is the letter to doctor. Okay. Oh, we have to stop here. We built this. What we built was for completely different purposes, really. So what you see here is when you create, this is a repeating page, so you can add all kinds of things, but it's just like Outlook. If you have 3 or 4 email addresses or phone numbers, then you can say, okay, 1 or 2 are mandatory, they're always there, but some of them, you can have one here, but you can add identical attributes with different values as much as you want. But here's the photographs and the drawings. This was exactly, actually, we built this for inventorying changes to if people went from ISDN to VoIP phones, companies and so on. Then we had to, the customer had to inventorize how many wall outlets were available, what patch, the switch, if the switch was sufficient. So you could administer something, and you could add photographs and drawings and sound recordings and links, and we have now PDFs as well. So you can attach anything to a page or to an item. And what you see here on the right with the trash can and the other one is for each item. So on this type of page, we have a double so far. You can have all kinds of things on this page, attached to this page on graphs or PDFs, but you can also have them for each item. And then if we continue.
Can I interrupt for a second? We have a question.
Sure. Yeah.
Armin wants to know how this renders, how smooth is the response on a mobile device? Is this responsive UI?
Yeah, hardly any. Sometimes, if you have a very difficult rules, you sometimes see it happening, but it's not annoying, not at all. This is it's depending a little on Windows phones. Sometimes it's very bad. On Android, it's perfect. On iPad, it's almost perfect. But I had some issues with Windows phones, strangely enough, but not always. But these last things, I haven't been testing lately, but we have run similar functionality on iPads and Android phones, and I have a Samsung Android tablet, and it's running perfectly. Only opening is a bit of slow, but even that is faster on an Android tablet than within a PC. Any other questions?
What all is being loaded when you open it on the phone or elsewhere? But what amount of data or records, or when you say the first part is slow, what is being loaded exactly?
No, well, that's a total myth or a total riddle. I don't know what they're doing. It's incredible. It's even one with just one screen will go up to 300, 400 megabyte of real memory. And I have no clue what they're doing with all that memory. It's almost as if it's slow for doing repeating requests to the global heap or something. It's an enormous amount of resources that Power Apps uses with almost no functionality in the app in case.
Yeah, I've seen that, and that's been reported in the Power Apps forum quite a bit. So
yeah,
you're not alone.
No, and we had some in-depth presentations on he said, well, we're working on that. It's a couple of months ago. But if you design the thing, and we have expressions that are page size, and then if you just replace a bracket or something, or it's going into an error, or it's the IntelliSense is getting the right options. We have delays of sometimes 30 seconds to a minute, happening nothing. And a couple of months ago, it was even crashing spontaneously in those situations. And if you design, don't do it in Studio. Do it in the browser, and do it in the Chrome browser. It's working much better.
For sure, yeah. Another major complaint and issue is in the desktop Studio, it's unusable. It's just you click, move a control, takes
exactly
knows, 10, 15 seconds. It's mind-boggling. And I got 32 gig of memory, so it's not any of those problems. It just
I know.
It just happens, and there seems to be no explanation, nor have they fixed it yet. So, well, at least in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So, yeah, the browser is much better. No issue at all. Ironically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But Michalis is a real wizard, and he knows exactly what's going to happen and when it's going to take time and whatnot. And he's completely adjusted to that. To that responsibility, to that response, he's just. Then I'm looking. What's happening? No, it's taking another 20 seconds. It'll get there, and then he sees. He can immediately. And I have to say, is it finished now? Yeah, it's finished. Well, what did you see that by? And then he could tell it from something, and then he just continues. He's completely adjusted to that strange responsiveness that we have, but it's getting better and better. Okay.
Can I? Yeah. Again, kind of a time
sure.
check. Trying to be aware.
Okay.
Is everybody still okay? And how much longer do you want to keep going? Because I think we're in that trade-off zone here.
I'm good to go indefinitely. So.
Okay.
Is anybody Okay, Ben has a question before we move on, but I want to be sensitive to both sides because I'm fascinated. I think
Sure.
everybody else is too. I just don't want to.
You mean mesmerized or?
Fascinated, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's like it's after 2 o'clock in the morning where you're not,
Well,
and
To us, it's not a
okay.
problem. We don't have any appointments tomorrow. It's about you, really.
That was smart.
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
going then. Before we do, though, Ben has another question, if you don't mind.
All right.
Can you show us the code to handle the layout for creating buttons? He wants to understand how it's
No
done.
problem. Yeah, yeah. Shall we finish the video and then shall I show you then? We can always do Gerard's part, which is really the most spectacular part. Although we're happy with this part, we can always get it into another. If you say, okay, come back in January, we can do that. But it's all up to you. It's
Oh yeah. I think that might be a good idea because I think now that people have had a taste of what you're doing, they'll come a little better
This
informed.
video is almost finished.
Yeah.
Maybe, but because now it's demonstrated what the forums are doing. So
Okay, so
yeah.
maybe
yeah,
one minute more.
let's finish up and then
All right.
because let's go.
Sorry
However
about
much
my.
longer is fine.
Okay. Well, as you see, depending on what is being chosen now, things come up. It can be a question. So now the question is coming up. So you say that on the bottom, and now um, yes, and you've pressed the pelvic region, or you. And this is very nice. We can make a raster a matrix of buttons and have them scalable so that you can that you don't have to even know that you can click any part of the image. But we don't have that yet. Now you have to predefine where it's clickable. Okay, this is finished, and then we'll go to the other one for the other options on the Power App. We're giving all this. We're making all this available, including the complete sources. So, if you have a big customer that you don't want to be depending on a bomb being dropped on the Netherlands or us messing up, then you can just continue with what you're having, completely free of you be available, you be depending on Microsoft still, but I don't think they'll cancel the Power Apps really soon. But you get all of this available, if including the JSON web services, the connectivity to the AWA, the whole XML processing within the AWA, and the connectivity with the Access desktop environment. So you can use everything you ever built in Access Desktop, you have available from both Power Apps Flow and from Access Web Apps. Okay, let's close this one. And let's see how long this is running. 3 minutes. Shall I let this go?
Please do, yeah.
All right. I won't interrupt it. This is a modification of the one that we just built. So now we're going to add some things. Among it, a slider. So and practically everyone we show this is say, oh, wait a minute, I can use this for this or that. It's everyone says that they have purposes for this. completely different lines of business and profession. We're attending. We're planning to use this for GDPR. I think perhaps you have heard of the new European legislation on data leakage and so on. Did I say pretending? I meant intending.
Okay. Again, since you can't see the IM window, Rob, I will pass along this comment from Tom. One reason for doing this may be that you guys can, or that one of you or all of you can become members of the Microsoft team in Redmond.
We can.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm 64. I should have applied on 25. Okay, here we go to the forms. I've been at Redmond a couple of times. It's very nice. But I've been a Microsoft partner since almost since '82. That's
wow.
So you can have large chunks of text at auto scale, and they can differ depending on your answers. So you can inform them what. This is the one, the repeating one. Okay, it's almost there. Okay, well, Gerard is a lot faster than I am. Shall we finish? What's your proposal, George?
Oh, please keep going. I think everybody is hanging in here.
Okay, Gerard, can you take it from here?
Yeah, no, I think we'll have to somehow share documentation on using the Power Apps. And there was also a question if you could show code, but do you have the Power Apps editor?
Oh, yeah, that's of course. That's good that you mentioned that. So I go here, then exit. And I think I have to go to a different environment. It's very strange. All Microsoft samples have been changed just at midnight. What do you want to see, the designer or the other one, the forms?
I see you have only edit permissions on the designer.
Really? Okay, well, I'll choose that one then. He must have forgotten to make me an admin. Coming up.
The editor always takes a while.
But we have all kinds of other things. There's an Australian guy he has a website with his daughter, Intelligent Workarounds, and he has very nice optic things with Power Apps. It's I think we're gonna be seeing new appliances for years with Power Apps. It's a bit like Excel. Let's see where we are here. This hasn't been initialized properly, I think. Would you like to see anything specific? Let's go to
just some samples, I think.
Yeah. Is it so slow?
So you built this tool because what, due to lack of functionality in the Power Apps Designer, or you added additional functionality, or what?
Well, we started off this as an inventory tool, and then we said, okay, if we want to be creating damage reports and so on, and now we have contact with a team that wants to build all kinds of functionality for medical purposes, because they figured out that medics have lose 46% of their time on reporting and auditing and things like that. So he has the mission to improve that, and he has been looking for solutions, and he has been building himself intelligence forms creators the past 4 years, but he heard of this, and now we're going to direct it specifically to medical questionnaires like triage and so on. But it's unfortunately it's a bit slow, and I don't see much code here. If I go to the page, I do the on select, type it here. Normally, all the functionality is everywhere, and when you look for it, it's let's see, screen pages. This is the designer. So we have a button here. If we go there, then this is the template chooser. Well, we can always do this again with with
the developer himself. Yeah.
I expected to find loads of expressions, but for some reason I don't encounter them. Can you start it off, Gerard?
Yeah. I need to be able to share my screen.
Yeah.
You are a presenter, so you should be able to share your screen. Can you see the button here in the bottom, the blue circle with the? Yeah.
Let's see. I have in my Skype screen.
Yeah, if you go to the black part of the Skype screen.
Yeah, the outside. If you go to the outs, yeah, if you.
Because I have
it's not opening.
Options for my screen, end meeting, or meeting options, or access data on the and change letter.
What about the right? Yeah, that one. That's it. Yeah, that one we just saw was it.
But now it's doing nothing.
Yeah, there you are.
I'm here. I'm getting out of here.
Okay.
Dylan Vincent, I'm still sharing, so I should be able to finish this.
So Rob needs to stop
sharing.
to end sharing before I can start share.
I believe that's going to be the case. Yeah. Now let's see if you can.
So sharing is left from the red phone, the hang up.
Okay.
The screen.
I choose my entire desktop.
Okay.
Okay. I got a warning about my desktop apps. Is my screen coming up? Yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to load. So we'll see. Yeah, we see it now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is just. I was looking at the Swagger definitions, but it's not very readable, as you can see. It mainly contains all definitions of data that is being transmitted. So I think we'll have to give some information on that in an email, maybe to everybody, explaining how it's being used.
Speaking of which, I will post your email in the message window if that's all right.
That's fine. Yeah. If you want to, we were thinking of creating a mailbox community at meetthemicro.nl, but for the time being use info at meetthemicro.nl. But if you're a developer in Access Web Apps or in Access Desktop or in Power Apps, then when we get really busy with the prospects that we are having now, we may even ask requests for offerings to people that have the possibilities for building, and we can always support them. But these are all MVPs, so this is not really interesting to them, I think. But maybe to other Access developers that look for new techniques in platforms like Power Apps and Flow, in conjunction with their old investments in Access Desktop and AWA.
I'll try to show some of that.
All right, go ahead.
Well, this is a schematic of a very simple, to visualize how multiple web app instances can communicate data between each other, because the idea is that we host multiple instances of the same application for different groups within the same customer, or different customers using the same application. And any change that is being done in one instance of the Access Web App is broadcast to all the other instances, and there can be rules on this broadcast to determine which instances get which data, and everything is transmitted via XML messages. And if I can open my RDP session, that's here. I have two Access Web Apps open at the same time, and they're both, you can see that they're different from the URL app D7A9, etc., and app 4E, 4E2A, etc. And they're now both showing the same application segment of the application. So we divided it into administrations, and both are showing the help desk administration of MetaMicro. And I can show that if I modify something in one instance of the application, it'll also show the modification in the other one. And the modifications are replicated via the file system, as we explained earlier. So everything is in this way working asynchronously. Let's open again this demo 049 item, for example. when you leave the app alone for a while and go back to it, SharePoint has to reload sometimes for a few seconds. I'll click Edit Case and add something to the description here. And when I click Save, the application via a web service creates the message as a file on the file system of one specific server of ours. And that will show to the right in these folders here. And well, I have we have specific a specific directory structure with a folder for each application, for each AWA. So there should arrive an XML. Yeah, here it is. So this message is now going to be picked up by the FCI system of the server, and this triggers a PowerShell script, which again submits this XML to the web service for submitting this message to the different Access web apps.
We have been considering message queue. And we did use it directly as well, not through the file system, but we had deadlocks. But we have a solution for that. But we needed the file system anyway for any PDFs or XML messages that were coming in from the outside world. So this is why we work with the file system at the moment. So, sorry, yeah. Gerard.
You can see these messages, if they are processed, they are moved to a folder which we named processed. So you can also, for debugging purposes, view all messages that have been passed. And this is what a message looks like. All information is actually in the session message part of the XML. The other items are for control of the flow of the message. And somewhere in this message will be my changed comment, I suppose. Stage number, submitted by, date, time, case number. Stage number submitted by.
You took the top one.
Think,
is the
yeah,
time? 1611. That's an old one.
Oh, this is it's not.
It's not sorted right.
Make the screen bigger. Oh yeah, because I navigated to the yeah. Huh. Yeah, here it is. XML description. So yeah, this description is in the message, and this message should now have been picked up by the other application. So I sent it from here probably. This one has a description XML com123, and the other AWA. Oh, this yeah, XML com12 it still shows, but if I now navigate to a different case, and then after the app has been refreshed, navigate back to the original one, demo 049. You can see that now it has the correct description. So in this way, different instances of the same applications are being synchronized, and this is also a way to make sure that only data which the customer is allowed to see it can be replicated to his instance.
Yeah.
So it's a security feature as well, this replication system.
And this can even be between SharePoint farms.
Yeah, and then there's this other interesting feature. Let's see if I can. Wait a minute. I need to. Yeah, minimize my RDP session again. The same way in which we use XML to transmit messages to different Access Web App instances, we also created a new feature to trigger a desktop access report through an XML message, which will trigger an RDP session and load a desktop access instance and produce a report. And we have made it so that this desktop access has linked tables to the AWA tables, and in this way the report can access data from the Access Web application. This is I can show this from one of these cases. We have an action defined which says send email with full case report, and if I open this screen also, and if I quickly switch to this screen, when I click the create report, you will see that briefly an XML is dropped in the to handle screen, this in this folder, and that this triggers an RDP session for the user, which runs under the security of the developer. So each developer would get one Windows account for his organization to run these applications, and this account has permissions on their respective Access Web applications. So if I create a report here, it's being run under the Sophia dev user. So I do perform. So now I'm requesting a report from my application, GT, OK, and switch back here. You see an XML appearing in the to handle, and now you see this RDP session popping up with access running, and it's also finishing and logging out again, and the XML is moved to the handled folder. And if we inspect the XML, you can see that this is the format that we use. In fact, it's and this would be a standard that other developers would have to use at the same time. But we define which report is going to be used, so that can be a name that the developer chooses. He just has to put that in the XML, and a filter GUID which we use. So this one is being used to tell which case to generate a report on, and also the mail address of the report is here. Let's see, to mail. Okay, this is a mail which is not going to be sent to me. I probably, yeah, but that's because I triggered the report in this screen, and this one is actually one that I'm logged into. So let's see if I can quickly do it another time. I can show previous reports that I already received in my mail earlier. Perform GT2. Okay. Here it is again. Here this session again pops up. So now I should receive an email shortly. And this I can show where these Access applications are. They're in the same folder, so each developer would have his own folder under customers. And we now set it to use this Access application. And you can see that we have a number of tables linked here. I'm now not logged in as this user, so I don't have the ODBC connection to the AWA actually. So if I open the table manager, I can see what tables from the actual AWA are connected, but I don't have the connection myself. So I can view these reports in design mode. I can't use them now without the data. This is the report, and let's see, as far as I know, it's using one of these queries. I don't know exactly which one, but can't be modified. Yeah. Well, it's obvious these queries can access the linked tables to get data from the AWA. So this is a way that Access Web Apps can still use functionality from the desktop access, which the developers can modify to their own needs. And creating a report is something which is otherwise not I think not even maybe possible in an AWA.
Did it get to your mail? Can you have a look?
Yeah, I've got one from 2:41. That's our time. Case complete report.
Yeah.
AWA development. So this is what a report could look like. Using data from the Access Web App, putting it in an XML and sending it to the user.
And we had planned to have each customer bring his own MS Office license key from Office 365, but there was a problem with that later on, Gerard.
Yeah, wait a minute. That I think that's the developers can have their Office 365 license to activate Office for their development purposes, but I think we couldn't execute at least in one of our first setups for this environment, but I'm not sure if it would interfere with this system. I think it should be possible because it's actually starting an RDP session under a user that the developer can control, and it should be possible to activate their Office license in this environment if they interactively log in as this user.
If we would need a second remote desktop server if we had people hiring their Office license from us under SPLA, or people that would bring their own license from Office 365. But I thought there was an issue with that. But because you think it's possible?
Yeah, I think it should be possible. But if you run an Office application, it's going to check online if your product is still activated, and I think it was another setup which had a problem using that. But I think in this way it's almost like the developer is interactively starting access and running a report. The only thing is that we automated it via scripts so that it runs unattended. But I think the license should still be usable.
Okay.
That's just.
Well, then we have everything. I think, Gerard. This is so. We did get to show everything after all.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that too. I appreciate your hanging in with us. I realize, and I also appreciate all the other folks here who stayed in as well. I think we're kind of close to 2-hour mark here, and that's a little bit much for everybody. So again, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we're getting a couple of, Tom says he's very impressed. That's a ton of work you guys did. Andy's very good. Ben, thanks. Yeah, I think everybody's appreciative. I would like to talk to you more about a follow-up session and maybe solicit from tonight's attendees their particular questions so we can kind of focus on those things. Armin says Power Apps, building Power Apps forms is very interesting to him as well. Oh, you're seeing it now.
Yeah, I see it. Great,
Yeah.
great.
So I'll kind of wrap up this session. I have a session scheduled for December on a different product, and I'll let the group know what that is. It's called Instant Developer, and we will see. It's a sort of in the same category as some of the other browser-based products we've seen, Zoho Creator and so on. It's in that same class but this I think has a lot of resonance for a lot of people, and we'll figure out when we can get you back.
Okay, well, we would love to. This way, all your legacy investments will be preserved. So that's where our main goal in this structure.
Yeah,
okay.
That's pretty important. So on that note, unless there are additional questions or comments, I'll turn it back to Rob to wrap up, and then we'll call it a night.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to hear from you again. And if you're interested in any way in cooperating with us, give us an email on info@metamicro.nl, and we'll be happy to get in contact with you.
Okay. Well, again, thanks to everybody. Appreciate your attention. Great questions. I guess we'll wrap it up here, and I'll see you all next month.